Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. And I'm coming through okay?
You are.
Yes, you are.
Cool. You might have a slight delay, Dave, but
I'm kind of that kind of a person.
ha!
A little behind.
don't know why it's not working.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is 9 o'clock. We're hanging out here in a virtual world today, just due to limited staffing. And so I just want to thank Lynn Tone for being able to get us all set up this morning. So I'm just going to kick us off and get us started. Good morning. This is the Tillamook County Housing Commission meeting on June 4th. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go around and ask for everybody. I'm going to start with Housing Commission members first. So the first person I see on my screen is Gail Ozell.
Gail Uzell, South County, who can't seem to get her camera to work.
We can hear you, so that's okay.
Okay.
Mark?
Mark Kestner, North County Representative.
Dave Bennett.
Dave, South County Representative.
Good morning. Briar?
Briar Smith, nonprofit representative.
Megan?
Good morning, Megan Carpenter, City of Tillamook representative.
Kristen?
Kristen Koptiuk, member at large based in Rockaway.
Good morning. And then looks like we have Corin.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Corin Karlovic. I'm with CARE and I'm representing nonprofits as well.
And we have Commissioner Fournier.
Hi, I'm Paul, Commissioner Fournier, Tillamook County.
Great. Good morning, everyone. And then I do see that we do have some members of the audience or members of the public that are here. If anybody would like to hop in and introduce themselves, please feel free.
Good morning, everybody. Mark Johnson, President of the Nehalem Bay Health District up in Wheeler.
Good morning. I see Will, but I think he's just going to remain quiet. So I'm going to hand this
Will
over to
Chappell from the
Mark.
Headlight Herald here.
Good morning. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Mark for our public comment.
Okay. Are there public comments out there? Anyone wants to say anything? Okay. We didn't put it on the agenda, but we usually do a meeting minute. If any of the board members or anyone has information of note or updates about what's been going on in commissioner lives. Oh, Kristen?
Yes, Mark Kestner and I gave a presentation to the AAUW Association, American Association of University Women, in our role as outreach people. And we talked about the Housing Commission, what it does, what the situation is in the county. And I think it was a really good experience to do that.
Yeah, that was great. Anyone else? Okay, back to you, Carrie. Oh, you're muted.
Great. So next on our agenda is the continuation of the discussion regarding Tillamook Bay Commons, our Housing Solution Fund program, and their modification request. So I'm going to go ahead and probably have Dave, if he's still here, kind of lead off that discussion.
Okay. So here's an update with regard to the proposed 72-unit workforce housing project on 3rd Street in Tillamook. as you all may remember, the developer requested a $400,000 pre-development grant during our last cycle. That was the 2024-2025 Housing Production Solutions Fund cycle. And they were awarded a $100,000 grant at that time for pre-development activities. In this most recent cycle, that's the 2025-2026 cycle, the developer requested a $200,000 pre-construction grant and was awarded $80,000 contingent on a successful MURL funding application. And through no fault of the developers, the MURL funding was made available primarily due to some problems at OCHS. And so that contingency was not realized by our applicant. Subsequently, the developer has asked that contingency be dropped and the $80,000 be made available to them. The thought is that the funds would be used for ongoing professional fees and to apply for a pre-development loan. And along with that request, the developer submitted a new pro forma. And as you probably know, pro formas are projections of what a project's anticipated revenues and expenses are. This new pro forma that we've received from the developer is significantly different than the first one that we received. After study, the Finance Committee has some concerns about the financial feasibility of the project and would like to present some questions to the developer regarding, for example, the pro forma projects a property tax exemption that has not been confirmed yet based on a pending annexation of the city by the city of Tillamook. We have some other questions as well. And so we should defer a decision on this funding request until the Finance Committee's had a chance to ask these questions. And given the upcoming 2-month hiatus of the Housing Commission, in other words, the July and August meetings have been canceled, we'd like the Commission's permission to, after these questions have been answered and the pro forma studied, ask the Commission's approval to let the Housing Commission make a recommendation directly to the Board of Commissioners with regard to this request that should be funded. All done in an effort to kind of expedite and to keep the momentum going on this project. So to kind of wrap it up in summary, we've got some questions regarding this most recent pro forma. We'd like to get those questions answered. And if they can be answered to the Housing Commission's satisfaction, we'd like your...
Just due to some feedback, people, is it possible that people that are not speaking to mute their mics?
Permission to make a...
How can I do that?
I think David's internet's a little slow. I wonder if he switched to just audio might be better for, and he can repeat what he said because I didn't catch a lot of the last part.
Neither did I.
And now he's frozen.
What I heard, and maybe it would be easier for him to confirm, is that at this time they have some questions that they're uncomfortable moving forward with granting this. But if they can get answers that relieve those concerns, they would just like our permission to be able to then directly move forward with the request as opposed to waiting for our September meeting for us to confirm that they can move forward with the request. Only under the contention that they get answers that actually make them comfortable and they feel confident to move forward with.
And I believe he's referring to the Finance Committee, not the overall Housing Commission, which, I mean, yes.
And I just have a few thoughts on that. We had a kind of a quick discussion about this at our executive meeting, and really kind of goes back to the framework of the Housing Solution program on our stages of a development, that we only are giving one grant per each stage of development. So I'm not sure if taking more time in putting this back in the hands of the finance committee may or may not result in any change, because essentially we would be still giving a second grant to a pre-development project. So I'm kind of to the point where maybe we should maybe make a different recommendation of not awarding Mr. Wade's request and applying those funds to the outlined programs that we've already identified as other projects that we identified. But I'd like to have a further conversation with everybody else.
Yeah, and to add to Carrie, I think there was also we all want this to move forward because it's a great development idea, but we want to make sure that the Housing Commission is treating all of our applicants in the same equitable manner. And we don't want to give one applicant more opportunity than any other applicant had. And there's some concern that if we already have a second pro forma, the Merle program not being ready yet is not their fault, of course. But again, thinking about equity for all applicants is also a subset of what do we do now. Chris. Oh.
Okay, this issue of pre-development should have been caught right in the beginning. I mean, he didn't change the level of request, right? It was originally listed as pre-construction, which seemed to be a new category that came out of nowhere to me because I don't ever hear of that before. But that has not changed really. It is still a pre-development award, and I just feel bad saying to him at this late moment that we can't give you another pre-development award because we should have done that right in the beginning. Am I wrong about that?
Well, when you
I
say,
think
oh, go ahead.
I think originally this second request that he made during this funding cycle was for pre-construction, characterized as pre-construction. And, you know, that's kind of a hazy term, pre-development versus pre-construction. I can understand that there could be a little bit of confusion about that. It's difficult to know just exactly when you cross over from pre-development to pre-construction. But nonetheless, if in this second request, he has characterized it as a pre-development funding. And so you're right, Kristen, in the sense that it would be 2 years of pre-development funding if we were to grant the request.
Plus, didn't we give that guy in Bay City 2 pre-development grants? Bogdan, somebody? Tyler Bogdan?
Are you talking about the former Brogdon project that went up?
Yeah. I believe we gave him 2 grants, and I can't remember if the second one was for construction or pre-development as well.
It was limited to construction because that was, I believe there was a stipulation in there that it was specifically for construction because there was that city pump station had to be added, and that there was a contingency that had to be used for construction.
Ah.
But
Okay.
I don't think that project, I think that funding was returned back, but I don't know that for certain.
But that's a good point, Kristen, that barring that instance you just mentioned, that we have philosophically not been willing to do 2 pre-development awards in the past. So this would be a new precedent on that front. And that's the Hobsonville one, right, David? Yeah, okay.
I mean, I just feel that it's kind of weird to dismiss this proposal at this point on the basis of criteria that were there in the beginning and we did nothing about it.
But I guess my only counterpoint to that would be that, you know, we have, this is an unusual request of them going back and essentially resubmitting a new application practically, and now we're reconsidering. You know, this is an exception to the rule that we've already done. And are we going to be, if an applicant, and it's essentially renegotiating a grant, is that something that we're going to be wanting all applicants in the future to have that ability to do? Something that just bigger picture, besides, you know, we're kind of giving him a second bite at the apple where we may not have done that previously.
Well, and again, I think what is mentioned in here, as Kristen mentioned, that has been done previously with the Hobsonville Point application. Is that correct, Kristen?
I don't know, Carrie seemed to imply that it was not two pre-developments. But if
And
we
then
didn't claw it back, I don't see why that it
well,
wouldn't have been
and then another thing I think
redeveloped.
we have to think about is flexibility. I mean, how rigid are we going to be, or can we be flexible?
Yeah.
And maybe that's going to be a question that we need to have legal look at. Because that I know that was Sarah's made concern that she had was, is that something that we can do? And the prefix of being able to look at it and making sure that we're not getting special preference. So I know that was something we had to be very conscious about, you know, is that once they applied, we couldn't necessarily renegotiate terms.
I'm not a fan of promising something and not following through, to Kristen's point. But on the opposite end, sometimes you realize when you start down a path that maybe it's not the right path and you've got to reevaluate. And my concern is that we'd be setting a precedence that we would have to allow people to apply twice and possibly give twice for pre-development, or we would be setting ourselves up for, you know, liability of being unequitable. And that's terrifying at any level, for a nonprofit, for the county commissioners who approve the thing. I feel like our stewardship of liability is really important. And unfortunately, I mean, very unfortunate, I wish it wasn't happening this way, they're already in a spot where they're having to step back and say, how is this possible without Merle? What do we do now? So they're already having to reevaluate this project and how they're going to move forward anyway. So maybe it is the time for us to step in and say, you know, we looked at the new pro forma and we, you know, this being pre-development or this doesn't match where we're at or our funding availability at this time. That's just my 2 cents.
Good points, Briar.
And
Plus, I'm looking at my records from 2002 and 2003 for the Bogdan, I keep calling it Tyler Bogdan project. And both times it's listed as pre-development. I don't know if that was the final determination, but in the application, both times were listed as pre-development.
I believe you're correct, Kristen, in the application it was a, we did receive 2 applications for pre-development, but I think our final determination was that we had to put a contingency on there, that those funds were only going to be applied, or the second round of approval was strictly for construction.
Then why didn't we call it
I
that?
think seeing that contract and us being on the same page on that is really important and will help us to see how to move forward. Because if we pivoted with that applicant who put on their application pre-development and we allowed them to pivot at the end to construction, then maybe we're doing that same thing here. Like, I think knowing what's actually in that contract will help us to know our best move forward and help us to set more appropriate precedences moving forward and more clarity within the application where we would just reject it initially and say, you're welcome to apply for construction. However, you've already done pre-development.
And it should be noted that the clawback, as that's been called in the past on pre-development, does not happen, or the money's kind of gone. So the Housing Commission cannot, or the commissioners cannot get it back. Whereas Parker has mentioned in the past that if things change beyond the pre-development stage, there are tools to, if we want, require our money to be returned to us. So that's a pragmatic little or big thing, depending on how you look at it. And the lack of MURL was a condition. So if that condition is not met, it seems, regardless of why, it's perfectly, our condition was not met, therefore, blah, no, or okay, yes, even though that condition was not met. So unfortunately, we're having this meeting because it's an unusual thing. So I'm kind of puzzled.
Don't we have to remember why we made MURL the contingency? It was because we assumed that there was going to be some kind of an inspection by MURL of the projects, because we already found the pro forma to be lacking in adequate information. So we left it to MURL to figure that out. It wasn't contingent on getting the funds per se, but having that inspection validate our decision. So now the MURL has gone away for no fault of the developers. If the issue was an inspection or a better pro forma situation, that's what we were asking for in the contingency, not getting MURL per se.
That's good.
Well,
That's a
MURL is
good reminder,
certainly-
Kristen.
Well, certainly a big part of that. In other words, their funding stack or their sources of funding were incomplete without MURL. And so the project just wasn't feasible without MURL. And so it was really,
He already showed us right from the beginning that MURL made very little difference to him because it increased the amount of labor cost. It was a marginal difference to get MURL or not get MURL, because the increase in labor cost almost equaled the difference.
that's true. And we heard that subsequently, that the developer said, this really doesn't make any difference to me, right. So that was a message we received later. Yeah, you're right, Kristen.
Mm.
But of course, this current iteration is almost, what, $5 million more than that earlier one.
I thought we decided at the finance meeting that it would be advisable to have a meeting with Steve, the developer, Steve, Sarah, and Dave, and maybe Paul, so that we could ask all the questions that we have based on the pro forma about the difference between the initial one and the later one and any other questions. And I thought that we were asking the Housing Commission for permission to do that during the 2 months that we're not going to meet. And then that committee will decide what recommendation to make.
That's
Not that
right.
it preempts, the Housing Commission dealing with the 2 pre-development grants, et cetera, but I thought that we understood that we needed answers to more questions.
And I think you're right, Kristen, but buried in there is, do they have the right to have our time to answer those questions? Plus, Sarah was going to talk to county council to assure that what you just said is legal. And we don't have that piece of information yet that I'm aware of. So maybe that wraps it all into what we as a commission can do, a conditional yes or an outright no, pending whatever legal counsel has told Sarah or the commissioners is feasible and legal for us to do. Does that sound right, Carrie, or anyone?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Certainly, we've got 3 issues really we're facing. The first 2 are whether or not we can issue 2 pre-development grants. The second issue being, can we accept a significantly revised pro forma? And I guess before those two questions need to be answered, before we go to the third question, is whether or not this project is financially feasible. And so I think Kristen's raising the question, when do we start getting answers to our questions about financial feasibility? I think the response is, well, first we've got the first 2 issues resolved. Can we even consider a second pre-development grant? And if so, can we accept a second pro forma? And those really are 2 important precedent-setting issues, I think. And
We could
probably
always
most likely,
decide, we can change that. We made up these rules to begin with. If we are not happy with the way that this works out, we can definitively make a rule that says no more pre-formas times 2. I mean, we don't have to think of it as precedent setting. Because we could just change the rule. We have changed the rule quite a few times, how we do this.
Democracy in action.
I guess it depends on when we change the rule and for whom.
I just find it's really uncomfortable to me to make a determination that we are not allowed to give him a second grant because it's a second pre-development grant. We should have said that right in the beginning. It shouldn't have even been considered.
Well, it was presented as a pre-construction grant, not a pre-development grant at application time. And is still, I don't know, Dave, is it still anyhow, yeah.
yeah, and we asked the question, how will the $80,000, if granted, be spent? And the response was to do a feasibility study to back up a pre-development loan request. So apparently there's a third party out there that might consider making a pre-development loan, and our $80,000 would be help prepare for that loan. Yeah, so he has recently characterized it as pre-development. Well, I guess I would propose, this is such an important project and it's got some momentum behind it. I would propose that the commission consider forward with this, but in phases. And the first couple steps or phases would be to get county council's opinion as to whether or not we can accept or make 2 pre-development grants and whether or not we can accept 2 pro formas. And we would get over those two issues, then give the Finance Committee authority to meet with the developer and get some of our questions answered with regard to financial feasibility.
Mark, you're muted.
I said, does that need a second? That's not
I-
quite a
I didn't
motion,
know.
right?
I didn't quite understand what the first step is.
The first step was to get county council's opinion as to whether or not we can accept and make 2 pre-development loans and accept a second significantly different pro forma in this process, whether or not that's something that we could even should consider or would be allowable without assuming a fair amount of some risk with regard to liability.
Okay.
And then Dave, as far as a response, would that be then as far as once those questions are answered, as well as the whether you have the ability to meet with to reconnect with the applicant, as well as then what would the end result be that we would be as a commission granting the Finance Committee the final decision on whether to either grant or deny that?
Yes, that was the proposal, to leave it to the Finance Committee then to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners with regard to acceptance or disapproval of the request.
Which is a good point, that this is a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So there is their final say and their analysis in there, of course.
Gail?
Sorry. So Dave, the discretion of the Finance Committee would be after the second step, which is to have questions about the new pro forma answered. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a question from Megan. Your hand is raised.
Thank you. I've been patient. I haven't been contributing much and I don't want to because I need to recuse myself from anything just because this is under my jurisdiction review. So I can't offer anything or any insight. So I just need to stay neutral on this one. Sorry.
But it's not yet annexed to the city. In fact, maybe you could clarify the issue of the tax abatement, Megan.
So even though it's not annexed in the city, it's in the UGB and we have zoning jurisdiction over the UGB. So I still have to review it even though it's not annexed.
And will they no longer be eligible for the tax abatement if they get annexed first?
From what I understand, if they get annexed into the city, the county still, because it started with the county, the county will still hold that contract. And I'm not sure how the back end works. I think there were some questions there and I don't think we ever got clear answers on that.
And I think Sarah was pursuing that with council or whoever. Because as we were going round and round, would it happen upon occupancy and that would put it out 2 years or 3 or all sorts of unknowns?
We do have, I believe we do have Cassandra Larson, the assessor here, if she has the ability to answer any questions about the tax exemption program. Because I do believe it was based on occupancy is when that's granted, but I prefer her to speak to that.
Are you talking about the Merle exemption?
No, this would be the the 10-year tax abatement for multifamily. Similar to the one in Pacific City.
Oh, I see. I don't know right now. I can go look.
Thank
Carrie,
you.
didn't you apply that exemption on the roll? So do you have an idea?
I'm when that did come through, it was based off of occupancy that
Okay.
that is when the application was submitted.
Okay.
And we did look, it was for the entire property, including the land. And that one was just exempted, I think a year ago or two,
Okay.
when it reached occupancy.
Well,
Thank you,
nothing's
Cassandra.
changed with the program, so I'm gonna go with what you did.
I appreciate that. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarification
Yeah.
and being present.
I think it's an important point that property tax exemption is really critical to that whole pro forma making any sense at all. Without that property tax exemption, in my opinion, have financial feasibility. We're borderline the way it is, assuming financial the property tax exemption, and without that, I just don't think it works at all.
So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. I would personally be uncomfortable relinquishing it over to just be presented to the Housing Commission, but I also have recused myself from everything else because I'm an applicant, not against this one. You know, that's not the thing. But so me being recused, I don't like that would be fine too. But I'm uncomfortable with presenting something to the commissioners and saying, hey, this is our recommendation when we were relying on the MERL because we were concerned about the pro forma and our knowledge and ability to dive into that. And we were saying, you know what, let's let those that do this for a living do that in this case because we're not quite sure. And also with the exception of us possibly shooting ourselves in the foot and doing something that we're saying we won't do and then coming back and saying, and now we're not going to do that again. I'm uncomfortable myself saying, yes, please move forward and make a recommendation freely to the commissioners because I feel like they're relying on us to do our due diligence. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents on where I stand on that.
Thank you, Briar. So it looks like there was a motion, but I'm counting commissioners here. I think we do still have a quorum with the 4, 5, 6. So I think we have 6 of us that are present. So I think we're okay if we want. So we do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, I propose that we move forward based on council's response to those first 2 questions.
I would second that. Sorry, David.
Okay, so I think at this point is that we're gonna call for I think we're just due to this, have Gail, do you have?
Yeah, I just want to, if we're going to get to a vote, I want to make sure I know what I'm voting on. So can I say what I think it is?
Please.
I think that we're voting on having this reviewed by county council and if those questions are answered favorably, then the next set of questions will be from the finance committee to review the new pro forma. And then if those questions are answered favorably, then we authorize the finance committee to make a recommendation to the commissioners. Is that what you meant, Dave?
No,
Okay.
I mean, yes, on number 1, but the second one was to let the finance committee representatives meet with the developer to answer questions. We already reviewed the 2 pro formas. So we don't need to review them per se, but we need answers to questions.
Okay. In the pro forma.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
meeting with the developer to answer them.
Yes,
That's the
Yes.
key for number 2.
yes.
Is that good for you, Dave?
Yes.
So I still second it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
And the first contingency would resolve what Breyer was just saying, because that's where they'll tell, the county council will tell us whether we can even do it or not.
And Carrie, when people recuse themselves, they still count for a quorum? Just
No.
curious.
No,
no,
So you were-
and I believe we will still have 6
Okay, I just wondered.
commissioners if,
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
so we do have a motion and a second on the floor. So I would ask that we use the raise your hand just so we can have a clear documentation. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
I did it online too.
Oh, so it looks like we do have a quorum. Let's see. What? So I think we do have, I'm just checking all my screens here because I can't see everybody at once. So it does look like we do have that. So Dave, please go forth, and we look forward. And also during this time, we will have, during the hiatus, we will have executive commission meetings. So we will receive updates from the finance committee. Those are typically on the last Wednesday morning of the month. Is that correct, Dave? Or, so I believe that is the correct time that we do have those meetings. I'm double checking my calendar right now. Yeah, typically, oh, strike that. It's 9 a.m. on the last Thursday of the month. So we will have those. So, and the public is invited to attend. It's on the same meeting link. And those will be happening in the months of July and August, as well as the end in June here. So we will be receiving updates. So anybody is free to attend those as well. And also at this time, next thing on our agenda is just the Housing Production Solution Funds award update. And what was passed along to me is all the other applications have gone to the board and are going out to the applicants for their signatures. And once they're being received back from TUBE staff, they're being forwarded to the commissioners for their signatures. So it sounds like all the other applications are proceeding timely. So I just wanted to provide that update. And then again, summer meeting reminders, our executive committee will be the last Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. during the summer. So there'll be no July or August meetings just due to the holidays and fair. And so our next Housing Commission meeting will be September 3rd at the Port of Tillamook Bay. And I think at this time, if there's anybody of the public that would like to make a comment, I think we're going to try to wrap this meeting up early. Corin, do you still? I see your hand still raised. Oh, okay.
Gary, I'd like to say something.
Please.
I just want to thank everybody for this thoughtful debate and conversation regarding this project. I think everybody agrees these are great projects. I really appreciate the deep dive that you guys are doing. And right, Merle was at the state level was a catastrophe, and that's the problem is they were not going to review any of the performance like we thought, and also it opened up the county as is to tremendous risk. Which is why no other community or county municipality, except for some port, I think in Coos Bay, no one else is using Merle right now because of it's basically getting all revamped. So I just want to mention that that's part of this, part of the reason why we're in this pickle is that it just was sold to us as one way and it has a lot of risk for the county that we're not willing. It would have been long-term 15 years of risk doing that. So that I just want to thank you guys for trying to find solutions to help this project if it is financially viable. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing anybody else have anything. So I think it's 9:46 a.m. and I think we're gonna go ahead and adjourn our meeting today. And we will see you on September 3rd. Thank you for everybody for joining.
Right. Great summers.
Thank you.